Greetings and welcome to an LGR thing. I am finally back, not only from Vintage Computer Festival Midwest 2025, which was the biggest one of those shows that I've done so far, but also in my house, the newly refreshed thing that had to be rebuilt after the ridiculous storm of 2024. And so that whole saga is finally hitting its closing chapter. So thank you for your patience on that. But as I was setting this place back up and getting ready for VCF, I was going through storage and ran across this again. And yeah, this is a wood grain LCD monitor from 1999. And while it might look like something that I would do myself or somebody modified or did something with, no, this is legit how it's supposed to look from the factory. Somebody really made this. And it was Mitsubishi of all companies, and Oberhofer, whoever they are. I guess we'll have to find out. And there are not many of these around at all. In fact, I can hardly find any pictures of these online, if any. And as for how I got it, well, I know it was at a previous Vintage Computer Festival Midwest. Somebody brought it over to my table and just sat it down and said, hey, you want this wood grain LCD monitor I found? I don't remember exactly who you were because I didn't take down your name on it or anything back then. So if you're watching, hi, thank you very much again. Please leave that in the comments. I want to know who you are and also where you got this, because like I said, there weren't many of these around. They were very expensive, it turns out. And really the story about this collaboration between Mitsubishi and Oberhofer is more fascinating than I thought when I went into it. So I just thought I may as well just bring this out and show folks and see what the response is. And it turns out there were just so many questions. I was really inundated with inquiries about this thing at the table, people assuming that I had put it together or wrapped it like I had my wood grain 486 because I had them set up side by side. But no, this was really something that they made to look like this. This was intentional by a company. Yeah, let's just take a closer look at whatever this is. What the heck is this thing? Because it really does look like something I would do or want to do. But no, it is a real product actually manufactured by Mitsubishi. Yeah, the same company that makes cars and trucks, and they also made computers and computer peripherals. And like everything else under the sun, like air conditioners, refrigerators, hydraulic presses, laser cutters, robots, planes, trains, tanks, missiles. Mitsubishi Group kind of just makes everything, and you know, it's kind of the same company we're talking about here, are all under that huge umbrella, but specifically this monitor was made by the display division of Mitsubishi Electric. Less than a year before they merged with NEC to become the NEC Mitsubishi Display Company. This thing though, other than the wood burl aesthetic, there isn't that much unique for the time. It's just kind of your standard 15-inch display, an XGA one in particular. So that means a 1024 by 768 native resolution. And yeah, this is analog only, just uses typical 15-pin VGA. And it supported vertical refresh rates of 56 to 75 Hertz. So it could display pretty much anything you'd want to under DOS or Windows, but it also made it Macintosh compatible with the proper adapter. But being that this is what it is, it also has a rather poor 95-degree vertical viewing angle, which means you gotta be pretty dead on when looking at it to get the best picture. But really the horizontal was deemed more important, and that was a nice 140-degree viewing angle, which was considered excellent. And its response time was pretty good too among its competitors at 40 milliseconds, and a stated 400:1 contrast ratio, which were both pretty good for a 15-inch LCD panel of its time. Its time being July 1999, when it was manufactured by Mitsubishi Electric's display division and given the model number LXA550W, also known as the LCD52. Which everywhere I've looked up states that was a $1,200 monitor in 1999, part of a fresh crop of 15-inch XGA native LCDs all hitting the market around the same time. But as you might expect, this is not the entire story. I mean, this isn't just the LCD52, this is a special version of it, the Oberhofer edition. And really, that's the more interesting story here, because that is a completely separate thing from Mitsubishi. They partnered with them for a couple displays, but otherwise they were an entirely separate entity altogether, founded in 1997 by Dennis Oberhofer and named it after himself, the Oberhofer Handcrafted Computers Company. Yeah. handcrafted. This was their whole thing initially, doing hand-carved hardwood computer products. This all reportedly came about as he was working as a computer consultant in Los Angeles, California in the mid-90s, and conceived the idea while helping out some unnamed Hollywood actor set up their office computer. Here's just a quote from a newspaper article. It says, his client's desk was a $15,000 custom-made job with wrought iron hand pulls, a grand piano right outside the door, and everything thought out to the nth degree except the computer. So he saw an opportunity to make some really high-end, completely custom wooden computer things to make it at least appear to be more exquisite and fitting in with all these expensive custom other bits of furniture in these Hollywood homes. And yeah, unlike my very plasticky Oberhofer edition monitor, they originally started off making straight up real hardwood enclosures, swapping out all the electronic guts and putting them in these handcrafted things. A line of products that later became known as the Classic Series, with the woodworking master craftsman Franz Janson as their main wood expert, at least at the beginning. An Austrian who had been in woodworking for over 30 years at that point, and then teamed up with Oberhofer handcrafted computers to create their wood-enclosed monitors, keyboards, and mice in either cherry, maple, or mahogany, usually with ebony inlays and other fancy materials sprinkled in there, and they could do other custom woods and whatever else upon request. Apparently they were really happy to do that kind of work. And man, they charged for it. I mean, their monitors were like $5,000 for the LCDs, $650 for those wooden keyboards, and the wireless mice were $350. But as they got more and more mainstream attention, including some of their products being shown on the NBC shows Will and Grace and Just Shoot Me, anyway, they had all this attention. They had their own storefront or two in Beverly Hills. I mean, this was some high-class kind of stuff going on, but they wanted to broaden their appeal and, lower the price quite a bit. So they came up with the Control Alternative series. Yeah, Control-Alt, haha, get it anyway. These were just textured plastics. They looked nicer than your standard beige, arguably, but they were just plastic, right? Including gloss red, a nice silver, a carbon fiber imitation, and our walnut burl imitation. And it's just plastic, but hey, it was classy or something, sort of. And this led to an agreement with Mitsubishi where they worked together and they provided basically all of the guts of the LCD52. And then OHCC would plop a plastic faceplate on there and swap a couple of logos, I guess, and that was that. And they would charge $1,800 for this 15-inch LCD monitor like mine. Meaning it's $600 more than just a regular beige LCD 52 that was functionally identical. I mean, nothing is different except the front fascia, the bezel, and then this logo on the plastic panel around back. And yeah, that's it. Otherwise, it's just your standard monitor, same as any other. And while I have absolutely no idea how successful they were and how many units these might have sold, they were at least successful enough to keep OHCC in business till around 2002 or so, when the founder Dennis Oberhofer left the company to go and work at Pfizer, where he remained for almost 15 years. And it seems that after he left there, he continued on with doing various types of consultant work ever since in the New York City area. Yeah, he's doing things, so good for him. But I'm really just interested in what he did for a few years in the late 90s and early 2000s, the Oberhofer edition of a Mitsubishi monitor that's otherwise pretty uninspiring. Although, just how uninspiring is it? Or maybe there's some surprises in store. There's not. But let's get into it anyway, because I've got the LGR Woodgrain 486, and what better pairing is there for this? So let me set it up, and yeah, we'll try it out and put it through its burl walnut paces. Those lovely startup sounds. Now I know showing any kind of monitor on a video and then watching that through YouTube, you're not going to get the exact in-person type of experience. Honestly, it looks a lot better on camera than it does in person, but under this kind of lower lighting here and at the right viewing angle, it looks pretty good. And yeah, I did create this just for Vintage Computer Festival Midwest, so it's just a batch file based launcher for all the games that are on here, so that way people weren't having to search around for all the different things that are installed. And yeah, that's all this does. So you can like load up your thing and then it just will go straight into it. And then exit right back to the menu and then just kind of loops around. I don't know, I was happy with this. It was a fun thing to create really quick. But anyway, what am I wanting? I guess I'll just use this, why not? Let me change the viewing angle. So yeah, I'm just gonna have the camera handheld for a second here because as you can see, it very much does depend on the viewing angle. The vertical one isn't very great. You just start seeing that backlight and stuff and things get really desaturated, washed out. But, I mean, it's really not that bad. And you know, like in the text mode here, it, again, looks pretty good in terms of the scaling, but it just depends on how close you look. Like if you look at the P in the word page there, yeah, it becomes more evident really just depending on what you're running. So yeah, 1024 by 768 obviously is going to be what it looks the best at, but really it's not too terribly awful at like 640 by 480 or 800 by 600 upscaled. It just, you know, it looks a little soft, you know, just looking at some of the text. It's not too bad. Let me go to just the edit program here. And yeah, you can see, I mean, I don't know how well this is going to come across on camera, but again, like the scaling just isn't terribly great, and it's kind of warm. And yeah, you do get this nice on-screen display here, so showing the resolution, all that kind of stuff. And how do I, no, dang it. Ugh. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, you just get standard and custom. No matter what, it looks warm to me. Like, even all the way up here, there's like this yellowish hue to the white. So, I don't know, the color temperature doesn't really do much at all. That's fine though, I mean, it's pleasing. It's just a little warmer than I would normally go for. I don't know. No matter what, I'm not really able to get it to look precisely how I would want. So yeah, if you do like this auto setup here, it'll go through and it takes a while. It's kind of neat to see it try and figure out what the heck is going on. But yeah, the results are always just kind of not 100% no matter what. That's better than it was, but you know, it's going to change for every single thing that you open. Yeah, let's go to Commander Keen 4, for instance. And, well, Sound Blaster's not being detected, but anyway, yeah, you can see that the overscan area and what, it doesn't really know 100% what to do with it. So if I go into the game, yeah, you can see that blue border going on. So if we do the auto sets again, it'll kind of figure it out. And it does have a memory and whatnot, but it just doesn't really always give me the results that I'm expecting. That's all right. But you know, it's not 100% like with the top and bottom there. So you can do like a vertical resolution, but it's not really a resolution. It's it's more just moving it up and down. Yeah, the position is doing the same thing. Anyway, all that to say, like, it has some quirks, and it's a bit of a softer image, especially when you're upscaling, which is, I mean, totally expected, really. And definitely a bit of that kind of weird shimmer effect with like the dithering and stuff going on. It's just your standard LCD of the time. This is not great. And this is why, myself included, a lot of people did not like LCDs for a long time. They just look like crap compared to a CRT. At least for certain resolutions and games and whatever, like all kinds of viewing angles, graphics software, color reproduction, contrast, etc., etc., etc. LCDs really just were thin and stylish, and that was about it for a good while. Ooh, yeah, there's another example. You can see that kind of, I don't know what it is, out of phase, or the clock or something is just, you're getting that sort of fizzling, analog. It's a very analog problem, and you saw that a lot on these older kind of LCDs back then. I don't know if it's the connection itself or the way that it's scaling things. Again, if you run that auto mode, then it will improve a bit, but it doesn't 100% look great no matter what. So this is just standard fare. Yeah, I mean, that looks better. I don't know exactly when it changed to where these weren't a problem. I seem to remember noticing them being quite good around 2004, though. Yeah. Well, the Sound Blaster is working. But yeah, this I just wanted to show because I always do. But also because as Jackrabbit, you have the funky resolution and the refresh rate and everything. So once we actually get into the game. Yeah. See, it's way off. It doesn't really know what the heck to do with it right now. 640 by 400? It is at 60 hertz almost. I don't know why, but I thought this was a 70 hertz game. Maybe it's not. But anyway. Let's do that again. So basically you just have to do this every single game you load just about, because so many of them are going to be different. And yeah, like it does get better at it. And like I said, it does have a memory, so that's good. But man, it's just old LCD stuff, It's got this one dialed in pretty good though. I'm not noticing too much of that flickering, shimmering kind of stuff. Yeah. And this being a little bit higher res and everything, that helps. Really just the more pixels you can give it, the better it does in terms of scaling. And that, again, just totally makes sense for an LCD of this era. Honestly, it looks pretty good. And it's, I know it's just 40 milliseconds response time, but that's quite good in my view. I don't have any complaints here. You wouldn't want to go much slower than that, though, that's for sure. I think you would really start to notice some lag around 50 milliseconds. But, yeah. Quite happy with this, just like as a thing to randomly fart around with and use, for its wood grain aesthetic. Maybe the Sound Blaster is actually working in my menu now. I don't know what was going on. Yeah, let's try Doom. Alright, that's working. And I want to say this is a 70 hertz game. Just check that. Yeah. 70.2, 720 by 400. Let's just run the auto setup. I mean, it looks okay, but might get some more screen real estate when we do this. Probably gonna have that same border kind of thing going on. Now it says 640 by 400, which, okay. And it's our keyboard only ultra violence. Nice. That was satisfying. Well, anyway, again, looking pretty good, quite playable, just have that kind of border top and bottom thing going on. And, it's mainly the text at lower resolutions that kind of looks crappy. But again, for this era of monitor, I have seen a heck of a lot worse in a lot of laptops, for instance. And just inserting a bit of footage here from another computer running Windows 98, and yeah, native resolution of 1024 by 768 looks absolutely fantastic for something from 1999 especially, but honestly, I mean, I'm happy with it, period. It's really just when you start running lower resolutions and it's trying to stretch that out that it has some problems. And I'm not even sure I'd call them problems, it's just, setbacks of this generation of display, this exact display in 1999. It just wasn't quite where it would be even a couple years after this. And again, though, yeah, I know the 400 to 1 contrast ratio, which is realistically more like 300 to 1, and 40 millisecond response time being actually pretty good does seem rather silly nowadays. But I mean, in 99, this was incredible. It's still so good. Maybe it's just because I'm used to some pretty janky mid to late 90s laptops, and of course, just having come from VCF, seeing so many other LCD panels of an earlier generation, or just worse ones, this actually feels quite good. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, it's just a monitor, you know? That's all it is. A pretty okay monitor from the turn of the millennium, just in terms of what was available at that time, the size, the price point, and all that. But of course, it's the Oberhofer edition status that makes this Mitsubishi monitor so fascinating, at least to me in my wood grain ways, and a lot of you too, based on the comments that I got at Vintage Computer Festival Midwest 2025. I genuinely was kind of caught off guard by how many people asked about it, and it brought up so many questions, and you never know what is going to capture interest at a show like that and on the internet, and you know, whatever. I never expected the wood grain thing to take off as an aesthetic, not just on my channel and other retro channels, but with more mainstream computers and devices and all kinds of things these days. Wood grain has come back as an accent from big companies and smaller ones alike. But yeah, that's pretty much it. This is just a monitor. It's got a cool bezel. That's what that is. And yeah, definitely let me know if you are familiar with or had or have any of these Oberhofer things. I am genuinely curious the type of person that bought these, and I mean, I can just guess, but seriously, if you have any experience seeing them or having them or know anybody that did, let me know. I would like to know some context. And even on the off chance that any of you actually does have one of the solid wood versions of one of these monitors or the keyboards, and you're willing to sell it, let me know. I am 100% interested, but that's it for this video. I'm very glad to be back making some LGR things again. Moving back home, it's been such a crazy experience, but things are feeling more normal, so hope you stick around for the future of whatever the heck is on this channel next. And as always, thanks for watching.